Oh, yes, indeed, Mr. Layi Babatunde, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, joins us next to weigh in on that matter. Good morning, sir. Thank you for coming on today.
Good morning, Chamberlain. Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so this meeting that the CJN had with chief judges over indiscriminate granting of ex parte, do you think it's going to have the right kind of results that they intended?
Well, the expectation is that down the line it should have, to the extent that now it has gone beyond meeting those chief judges. The judges that are directly involved in the grant of those orders have now been asked to offer explanations. And I think to that extent, we should keep our fingers crossed.
But, you know, I mean, we see questions, several such that they wonder, does the CJN have the powers to discipline the state judge?
It's the NJC, actually, the National Judicial Council, of which is chairman. At the end of the day, a decision will have to be taken by the NJC, not the CJN as a person.
But now, when those judges give those ex parte, as it were, in the case of the state chief judge, aren't the judges vicariously liable for their matters? I mean, can the chief judges in the state be accountable for what the judge has done?
Well, you see, it's an interesting scenario. The point is that every judge is the master of his or her own court. Once you are assigned a case, you have a responsibility to decide the case one way or the other, and you are responsible for your decision. No other person will take responsibility for you. But the CJ of a state has administrative responsibilities in terms of assignment of cases and all of that. But except perhaps maybe if it happens that in the course of assigning cases, the CJ goes out of its way to interfere one way or the other. Otherwise, it's the judge that takes the case that will have to answer for himself.
You know, I came across a paper you delivered, and part of it, I believe, said that one major area of concern concerns the activities of some federal government agencies and their penchant to visit heads of federal courts soliciting for assistance on the disposal of their cases pending before the courts or to be filed. And clearly you had seen a trend, a dangerous trend with heads of courts. And this touches, I mean, this whole conversation touches at the heart of the judiciary. And I think, like you said, keeping our fingers crossed is quite important, because a lot of people are saying they're watching to see how this will play out, because whatever comes out of it would impact on the integrity of the judiciary, the trust that people have in the judiciary. And I just want to glean from your experience, because I know you've written a lot about, you know, court cases. How deep is this really? And I'm talking about when it comes to heads of courts. How much compromises have probably been made in the past? How much do we need to remedy this?
Well, you see, the point is this. If you look at the structure that we have, take the judiciary, all right? Amongst the three arms of government, the judiciary is the only body that regulates itself very strongly. And that's the truth, irrespective of whatever we perceive that is happening. There's a code of conduct for judicial officers, very strict one at that. In fact, it goes into the minutest detail of whether you can accept a gift from an acquaintance or not, including the family members of the judge. And the question is always put in your face. Look, this step that I want to take, how would the public perceive it? The entire stretch and gamut of the rules is about sustaining public confidence in the judiciary.
Absolutely.
Its integrity and impartiality. Now, having said that, you realize that in every system, the judiciary does not function on its own, all by itself. There are other players in the field. And I think this is where sometimes we make the mistake. Because if you look at the discourse, even in recent development, it's about the lawyers and the judges. But there are players around the courts that they themselves have constituted problems to the courts. You have an emerging trend of people who regard themselves as super litigants. Super litigants. And they want to conduct their affairs as if they want to overwhelm the court. And some politicians are part of that group. Like the CGM mentioned, forum shopping from one state to the other, trying to select a court that will be favorable to their disposition. The National Assembly, for instance, is responsible for the budget of the judiciary. The judiciary does not budget by itself. It is what is allocated to them that they receive. By the rules of conduct for judges, they are supposed to be competent. They are supposed to be trained regularly to maintain that competence. But they must have a library to do that. If they don't have the money to build up and maintain an up-to-date library, the rules will just be there in the books. So what do you find? The law establishes an institute, National Judicial Institute, that is supposed to be responsible for the continuing education of the judges that we appoint. But how much funds do you allocate to them? Hold on. So you have these people who are agencies of government and all of that. They now begin to sponsor trainings. They begin to sponsor seminars. They begin to pay for all those things. Which of course gives a wrong impression. Because some of them are litigants. Some of the agencies are litigants. And then they begin to sponsor trainings for judges and pay for it. Now, these are things that can affect public confidence in the judiciary. Because if, for instance, you find an agency that is a party in a suit and is organizing a conference or a seminar or a training for judges, and you get to read in the papers or you watch on the television, you'll be shocked. That how can this be? How can a party in a case organize a training for judges? But that is because somebody has failed in his duties somewhere. The both arms of National Assembly, they have a judiciary committee. I don't think they need to be told that.
So while this might affect the perception of the public, seeing all that, the way things are done, should this affect the decisions of the judges? Are you saying these powers are superior to the judges? Yes, we understand public perception. But when the chips are down, when the cases are in court, should that affect the disposition of the judges naturally?
No. You see, the point is this. There are several factors that goes into deciding a case. Even for us as lawyers, we have comprehensive rules of professional conduct that guide us. The judge has a perception of what has been presented to him. And you realize that every judge will take a case based on the facts that are before him, not the facts before another person. So when, for instance, you as a member of the public, you are aware of other facts that have taken place elsewhere, but those facts are not in the docket before the judge. Of course, when he gives his judgment, you will be alarmed.
Is that going to change now, given the directive of the CGM and having had this meeting?
I didn't get that.
They need to be abreast of what's going on in other jurisdiction.
Again, look, take for instance the Court of Appeal. The Court of Appeal is one with several divisions. What is the level of infrastructure that the Court of Appeal has as at today, that even every judicial division knows what is being decided in another judicial division real time? So when the CJN says it should keep abreast of whatever is happening, my understanding of it is this. Look, without prejudice to whatever is going to happen at the end of the day, those who have responsibility to do that. But for the purpose of our discussion, you have something going on in a political party in Anambra State, all right? And somebody goes to Jigawa, as it has happened, or goes to Kwara or Imo or whatever, and he files a case. You know, you want to be circumspect. You want to ask yourself, my friend, how did you travel to this place? How did you travel? How did you travel to this place? Something that happened in Imo State in a political party. You are here in Kano. I mean, those are the kind of things. And to be honest, some of the provisions of the rules, they are called with common sense. You don't have to be an SAN, a judge or whatever. I mean, commonsensically to want to, my friend, how did you travel here? This is something that happened in Ibo and Kano. Yeah. So I think that is kind of thing that the
So
CJ...
they also have asked those questions.
Look, one will expect that there are certain things that are so basic. More so when you have the decision of the courts that have already said, look, if this thing is happening in another jurisdiction and they come to your court, stay away from it. Let them go back to where that is happening. And there are things that happen that naturally it will raise questions. And I think that is why the agency is asking questions. So say, look, this looks strange. Can you tell us why you got yourself involved in this kind of thing?
But can this matter really be addressed without addressing the way judges are appointed?
Well, partly. For instance, part of the comments that I read is that the CJ did mention from the newspaper accounts that more experienced judges should take some of these political cases and all of that. There is no doubt that the process for the appointment of judges needs to be thoroughly examined. There is no doubt about that. Because the judicial appointment cannot be a matter of patronage. It ought not to be. Because look, a judge has the power of life and death. If a judge makes an order that I order that to be hung by the neck until you are dead, may God have mercy on your soul. Unless you succeed on appeal, that is it. Or the governor refuses to sign your warrant, you are dead. So to give such a power to a person, the person must be well tested in knowledge, in learning, in integrity. Because look, we are privileged people. And that is why I think when things happen, the public, they are so interested. Because look, we have an arm of the government that is dominated by lawyers. If you see another person in that temple that where we serve, they are subordinates. They are just people that you ask to go and do one thing or the other. Unlike other places where you have a mixed bag of people. So for you to populate that very strong and powerful institution, you need to have the right set of people to do that. Because the power is enormous. And that is why the Code of Conduct, for instance, for judges, says that, look, we recognize the fact that this power can be abused. It can be abused. Make sure you don't abuse the power by the grant of ex parte orders indiscriminately. Because they also recognize that the power is there, that it can be abused. But before you give such power to people, I think they need to be properly examined and tested. Not because, Mr. X is from one local government, we don't have anybody from a local government that has been a judge before. You must ensure that we also are represented, all kinds of considerations that don't really...
Is that what happens now?
Well, some people have complained. That, look, the way some people get appointed and all of that, there's a need to... Look, every process needs to be fine-tuned. No matter how perfect you think a system is, the moment you allow it to remain dormant the way it is, decay may set in. Every process requires you need to be reviewed continually.
I wonder how far back, pardon me, we have to go into this process, because they're essentially picked from a pool, right? But I mean, they didn't just
get it picked from, because they are unable to manage their own affairs. So they felt that let's push it to the courts. And you now find the courts inundated with all kinds of cases. You know, in 2018, this Professor Yakubu he was complaining bitterly. He went to see the then CJ, and he said in one political party, they were fighting over the chairmanship of the party, like it happens in PDP now. They were fighting over the chairmanship, and in the space of, I think, 3 months, there were 6 conflicting orders of courts of coordinate jurisdiction. 6. That was. He went to see the CJ, and I think 17th January or so, in 2018. Is it different from what we are witnessing now?
Professor Jega had the same problem too. Jega during his time as ANEC chairman, so, and then he subsisted.
So I think the idea of taking the court deeper and deeper, and my belief is this, and some of our colleagues have expressed this view, and I share that view with them. If the system had been allowed to run, and you keep the court, because why do you want to give the court a bad name? And you guys, you don't seem to look. You want to have your way at all costs, which is why you forum shop, you any way that you can have it done.
But speaking about that forum shopping,
yes,
we understand that it is senior lawyers who are even involved in this. Because when the CJS says, well, more qualified judges should handle that.
Wait for what the NBA will do before you know who are those that are involved. Those, you know, it's very easy to say senior lawyers, senior judges. These things are just.
So you know senior lawyers were not involved, or they were involved?
I wouldn't know. But what I can tell you is that, look, only after the CJ met with those chief judges, I think at the time it was 6 initially. Then another one was joined to make. Let's wait for what the NBA will do.
Is NBA likely to publish names?
Wait for what the NBA will do. NBA has issued a statement that can assure you that it won't end at that. I believe that it won't end at that. But the point I'm making about this, you remember Peter Obi? Peter Obi was in a political party then, I think PDP. They had issues with his nomination, and he was edged out. Eventually, he crossed over to another party, and he was elected governor. Some have, expressed the view that if politicians continue to manipulate their internal process and they don't allow the right candidates to emerge, at the end of the day, they will be the losers, and that will straighten them out. Unless those people, it's only a person that is, let me not use very strong words on that. It's only a person who doesn't know what he's doing that will continue to repeat a process that is not profitable to you. And I think if we had allowed that process to go ahead truly, I believe all this kind of thing we find ourselves, because you get all kinds of cases now under the guise of pre-elections, disputes, and all of that. And even INEC, that is supposed to statutorily regulate elections, they are overwhelmed. I mean, how can we make ourselves a laughing stock? You look at INEC notice board. They say today, Chamberlain is the candidate for party in the morning. In the afternoon, they say it's now 10:30. By 5 o'clock in the evening, all by court. I mean, what kind of democracy are we trying to practice?
So you have said that courts should try as much as possible to stay away from...
It is the National Assembly that should do that.
Exactly, because it's in the law already. So I imagine that...
They should limit, because look, what is this democracy? The democracy is the active participation of the people. The people should not become onlookers in their own events.
So you're saying until the National Assembly does something, this will continue?
Sorry?
Until the National Assembly changes the law or repeals those laws, this will continue?
Well, I'm afraid that some aspect of it, certainly, because if you talk of multiplicity of suits, the registry of the court is open to accept court process. Even if you bring 1,000 court process, will the registry tell you to take it away? They cannot. I mean, they cannot. They cannot. If you say too many cases, of course, they have a right to, they will bring the cases. The registry will accept the cases. But the National Assembly can plug that hole, which I think they open for their own selfish benefit, to the detriment of the judicial process. Look, The people are the determinants of those who should get elected or not elected. They have put in place a process that has made them onlookers in their own event. It is wrong. It is wrong. Because, look, why will you at every turn, you are waiting on whom the court says is your councillor, is chairman, is an aspirant, is not aspirant, is this. No, I think that's too much. I think that's too much. The National Assembly should please, they should go and take a look at it. If they thought they were trying to solve a problem, they have tried it for quite a while, and it's not working. It's not working. That is one aspect of our process that has given the judiciary and the legal profession a bad name for no just cause. For no just cause. Everyone wants to file a case and get a court order. And you see all kinds of court orders flying all over the place.
So from the look of things now, given the meeting and what we expect from the NBA, you think that there will be no such case repeating itself, one judge in one jurisdiction, given this kind of order?
Jabali, I can't say that. And I'll tell you why. In 1993, that's many years down the line, there was a judge in Abuja. She's late now. May her soul rest in peace. You remember how the court intervened and gave an order that truncated the process. And several other cases came up. And the then military president used that as an excuse to say, we want to save the judiciary from itself. That was what he said. Mm-hmm. I remember. He said, because you see, the judiciary has become like a scapegoat. He says, oh, we want to save the judiciary from itself. So to stop all this process, even though the judiciary was struggling then to empanel a panel of justices to resolve all these conflicts, but they cashed in on those orders and said, we are going to cancel this process of election. So if we had this problem in 1993, and instead of abating, is escalating.
Oh dear.
So something worries me about the way we solve problems in our part of the world, and I don't know why. You bring a solution, you want to solve a problem. The solution ends up becoming worse than the problem that you are trying. Yeah. But I believe that, again, there is a bit of attitudinal disposition to the way we go about it. Especially our politicians, this way, we must get something at all costs and all of that, and cause a lot of disaffection and problem in the system. And if the idea is that you want to serve the people, for God's sake, if they don't want you, they don't want you. If they want you, they want you.
All right, we'll hope that all of these measures, particularly seeing the process play out, will at least, if not eliminate it, reduce it to the barest minimum.
Yeah, but if the enforcement of the rules goes on as this CJN has given the clear signal, and it is consistent and swift,
then there might be some.
If it is consistent and swift, I think we begin to make progress.
All right. Well, thank you very much indeed for coming on, Mr. Layi Babatunde, Senior Advocate of Nigeria.